hot and spicy when Calypso is there. Carnival does be bright and gay. Carnival does be sweet and jumpy when the bandmen appear. Everybody jumping away. They will jump and whine and call for more. Jumping up to the sweet tempo. All the while the officials making it. Trouble is the bandmen and the Calypsonian. Scrunting after Carnival done. And yet still we keep on jamming. Every year we come out playing Calypsonian and the bandman. East, west, north and south. From every part of this island we make our contribution. Don't leave us out. Remember we are the ones who make the jump, who make you jump up and prance. We're in the middle of the carnival. We are the ones keep up the bacchanal. We are the ones who make the jump, make you jump up and prance. Working to make this fun and spring. Greatest summer festivities you can get. We treated Calypsonians and bandmen like dirt. All you
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Point FM. Jupiter, come. Welcome to Point FM, and we are the ones this afternoon, 99.1 on this beautiful Wednesday. And this is Petra Williams, your host in the house. Oh, jeez. Come on, good afternoon. It's been a long day. Ladies and gentlemen, let me apologize in advance for not giving the reminder. As to my guest today. I had one of those days, and so, but we're here, and I'm glad you've tuned in, and we're going to have a wonderful afternoon today. Now, just before we go in, there's the Point Express newspaper. I don't know how many of you have seen it yet. Monday's edition, it had an eye on our economy that I write, a Monday column, trying to educate us all on the economy a little bit, I say educate, but please feel free to disagree and send me your views. Today's paper, it's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and of course it's $3. And today's, I think what popped out at me today was the passport recall extended. Because I went into that line, I spent about 4 hours, and yeah. So it's good to know that the passport recall has been extended to June 2020. Let's make good use of the extension and get our business sorted. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so that is our lesson for today. So for all of us in Antigua and across the diaspora, everywhere you are, we have an additional 6 months. Make use of the passport and make use of everything else that we need to, because times are running. Tick tock, tick tock. And so that is my one news item. In studio with me today, my first guest is, how you call this? Neighbor? Is Mr. Lucaso Brummant. Is it Brummant or Brummant? Right, Brummant. It's B-R-U, isn't it?
B-R-U-M-A-N-T.
Okay, I was having an argument with myself. What is B-R-U? I forgot one thing, Mr. Brummant. Give me 30 seconds of your time. People in the New York City area, I pay a little close attention since my little heartstring up there. Be safe. Don't slip on the ice when it comes. Good afternoon, Jerry, darling. How are you? He's going to kill me for that. Yes, so we're back. Mr. Brummant. Now, Mr. Brummant and I are going to talk two little things, because Mr. Brummant is one of we. We are the ones originates and emanates and discusses mostly Point and Villa people business. So we can talk his business a little bit. But even beyond that, 30 years ago, Mr. Brummant and some others started Wings CPTSA 30 years ago. And we also want to explore that, where it came from, and how it's going today. Because I think that has become like an institution now in Antigua and Barbuda annually. So, but before we get there, we're going to start at the back. Good afternoon, Auntie Carol. And we are going to be discussing Lucaso the Villa man. Is it Villa man? Or you come from Point and Villa?
Both. I would say both.
Pull the mic a little to you for me. Yeah, right. Yeah. You come from both. Okay, good. So, Lucaso, you look like you're about... You passed retirement age, yeah?
Yes. I just retired from the Christ King High School just the other day.
You retired? Really retired?
Yes.
They have a formal retirement ceremony?
No, I don't need that.
So you just decided to pack up your bag and you're gone?
Not really, but it was time. You know.
So what? You don't go in every day now? You're going like one day a week?
No, I still do sporting business and so on. You know.
So what
I
you
still-
retired from?
You know, I was working with the government, the sports and games on the Mr. Brand. Remember that?
Oh yes, that is
Right.
another. See, that's a whole other story again. Add that one.
Right,
So you
right. And
retired
then,
from where?
I retired some years ago from government, and I was doing the sports as a part-time at the Christ King High School, because at the time I started there, they didn't have a physical education teacher.
So what did you teach at Christ the King?
Sports and physical education.
All I'm trying to understand now, Mr. Baban, we're gonna go into your story, but you just told me you retired. This
Yes.
last time.
Yeah.
What you retired from?
Retired from the school then. And I
Oh,
retired
so you've
from what?
retired from teaching at
school.
Christ the King High
Right,
School.
right.
So
But
you no longer are the PE and sports
Right, exactly.
teacher.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that means what? You wake up what, 2 hours later than
No,
normal?
wake up as usual.
Okay, so what has changed about your routine? You don't go to school
That's basically.
And you haven't-
I don't have to report to anybody.
and you haven't filled that slot yet. I'm sure you filled that slot though. You haven't filled those times yet?
Of course.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah.
So don't say you've retired. Say you've changed focus.
Okay.
So we're going way back, Mr. Brummant. Way back to who your people. If anybody want to know Lucaso people, who do we look for? Or where your story begins?
My story begins from, even though I was born here, my story begins in Dominica, because that's where my parents
Yes.
are from.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and they came and they settled here. And I was born at Attil Street.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like the borderline
Between
between
Point and Villa.
Villa.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I grew up here. Did a little time in Dominica at the primary school in Vickers, where my parents are from. But basically, I went to the Catholic school here in Antigua, the convent school and the St. Joseph's Academy. You know, well before that, you used to have what you call Roman school. Remember Roman school? You're not at all, right? Yeah,
For
Roman
those of you who
school.
are listening via radio, I just put my hand under my
Roman
chin,
school,
talking about if I
then
remember Roman
convent
school. No.
and then St. Joseph's Academy. Yes, basically.
So when did you during your school life you played sports?
Yes. Yeah, it just...
It was mandatory then, I think.
Not really, but it was just a natural thing for me, because since growing up, since as a young boy, starting in primary school, in the area of Villa and Point, you know, we were just maybe
Dominant
like,
is the word you're looking for?
right?
Dominant, the word you're looking for? No?
Yeah, sports was, we used to do a lot of sports, running, going to the beach, fishing, doing all kind of stuff like that, playing cricket, football, and then later on basketball.
Slow down.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying to me that outside of your school life for sports, you had a community life for sports as well?
Yes, because the young boys, the young boys in the area, I would say children, most of them gravitated to sports. You know, we had a good sporting fraternity in the area of Villa and Point, and so that was our challenge. That led us to who we are today. I know some of them, even like Squealy and so. I didn't even know Squealy had passed away. There's some of the old guys that we used to play with as young guys. A number of them. I remember Shelley Hood. He also passed away. He was one of the stalwarts in the area that helped with the sports program, particularly in Villa. And so, we did a lot of sports, as I was saying, So.
Okay, all right. So you had the sports in the community and you had sports in school.
Yes.
And then after academy, what did you do?
After academy, I I worked at the Antigua distillery, and then after that, I was one of the first of 5 to be sent on a Olympic solidarity training course in Mexico. Myself with Ren O'Neill, Junie Michael, Varen Edwards, senior. Yeah. A guy by the name of Willis, and Ren O'Neill, So, and then when I came back, Mr. Brand wanted my services because they had just started the sports and games department, I think, the year before.
Mm-hmm.
And so he asked me to come over. And so I did.
Okay.
And
at that time, you weren't restricted to any particular sport. You were just working through.
Yes, right. But particularly basketball, anyhow.
I went into that line.
And then because I had some expertise also in volleyball, so I, along with Mr. Brand, we started the basketball and the volleyball program in the schools. Right, so we were the first to introduce the basketball and volleyball in schools.
That would have been about what year?
That would have been about 78 or something like that.
When God was a boy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a long time.
78,
okay. How was it working with Mr. Brand?
Well, everybody knows Mr. Brand has his ways and so on, but he was a special kind of guy, He wasn't always easy to get along with, but all who came through him. It's just like, I try to explain this to people, Well, if you're a father or mother, right? Yeah, sometimes as a father, you're tough on kids. You're tough on your children.
Tough love?
And they sometimes the children don't understand that. Right, so I think at the time we probably didn't understand where Brand was going, right? But he somehow had a plan in mind, and he had he was gifted. He was gifted in a lot of ways, and he could get things done. And I tell people already, when you sit in a chair, as Brand would say, they gave him the role of director, so he's directing. So it's not like now these days where you have people in charge, but somebody
else calling the shots.
Yeah, no, he called the shots, and I think he gained a lot of respect for that down the line.
Okay,
yeah.
So you worked on the Brand, and you were in sports and games for like almost 30 years? No, more than 30 years.
Yeah, 2007 till 2007.
1977? From 1977?
Yeah.
1977, 78, 88, 98. That's about just under 40 years.
Yeah.
No? Let me see. 7, 82.
I guess that's why.
Yeah, just under. Yeah.
That's why you're an economist, right? You like to count.
I mean, it's just to get context, because the question I have to ask you, why I said that context, is that so you have been in a place to observe the growth and development of sports.
Of course.
Right.
Of course.
How has that gone for us as a nation? What are your thoughts on what we got?
I think at the time we had some great people running sports, included Sir Reginald Samuel, one of the directors of sports. Before him was Danny Livingston, and then you have people like Rupert Rugby Lake, right? Economist. I guess you probably learned under him, right?
I interacted with him.
He's what's happening right now, right? We're riding on the backs of these people, and people don't understand that we're riding on the backs of these people. People like Brand, Sir Reginald, Pat White, all those great people, Rugby Lake and so on. They're the ones. Rugby Lake was the one that was instrumental in moving sports forward. Before we had just about 4 or so associations that were, football was one of them, athletics. Those are some of the few that were affiliated to the international bodies.
Right.
At the time, you had to have at least 5 sporting bodies to get an international recognition as an association. It used to be then the
the Olympic Association?
Antigua and Barbuda Olympic and Commonwealth Games Association.
Okay.
Right? And then we got basketball to be affiliated in 76, and that made the fifth one.
Mm-hmm.
And from there we went to the first Olympics in 76 in Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
That's where Antigua started. So he created a lot of avenues for sports in Antigua. And then one good person that people, he's not from Antigua, but he led sports and pushed sports in Antigua and through the OECS. That was Reg Pereiro.
Reg Pereiro was here for a while too?
No, Reg Pereiro was running the sports desk.
Oh, from OECS.
Right, from the OECS. So this is what I'm saying. So when we had the OECS sports desk with Reg Pereiro, you had a lot more sports, a lot more competition, a lot more teams coming, whether it's in netball, basketball,
that's
football. Regional.
But who paid for all of that?
Well, he used to, the sports desk, it was mandated from the OECS secretariat.
So who paid for it? Because
the governments.
But we find it so challenging now sometimes.
Right. So what happened when, I guess, Leas was vibrant then, but and had good management. So he used to get like 50% off of the airline tickets because of OECS.
Okay.
So the association only had to pay 50%. And then the host countries used to be able to put up the
provide accommodations and so
provide accommodations. So now it's very challenging. You have to buy your tickets full wholesale.
Because things not as
and you have to pay your own accommodation and stuff like that. So you find that type of competition that we used to have, right? We don't have that anymore, right? You don't find teams coming into Antigua as frequently as you used to in those days. So and that's one of the things I think that we are lacking right now. So for us to compete at the international level, we have to have those competitions, and that is what has died. And then therefore we're not doing as well as we would have if we had those competition. Those outside competition teams coming in and we going to play and so on. Yeah.
So that in terms of raising the quality of the game for the local.
Right.
One of the things that I think we've heard over time is that the focus of our young people and the discipline has changed. From your eyes, looking at our young people through sports development, and where you sat from the ministry, we're going to transition to wings soon, but where you sat from the ministry, did you note that over time the youth focus has changed? Or what you think would have been responsible for example, the fall off in some of the sports that we were traditionally strong in?
Yeah, we had again from where I sat at the sports and games, and from that department, we saw a lot of what you would call it, interest in sports from young right up to the old. Even when Mr. Bryan had instituted, that's why he instituted the business league. So when you had a business league netball, a business league football and stuff like that, you would find persons like you, if you work where establishment you're working in, you would be playing.
No, I
right?
only spectate. That have a spectators league for me, but I get your point.
yeah, that's a good idea though. We should really have a spectators league. That is something that we should think about. But I think there were a lot more competitions, and Brian, whether it's Sir Reginald Samuel, whether it's Pat White, these folks, these 3 people, made sure that there were competitions going on. You see, like now, Yasco is down, you don't have no track and field. So you ask yourself, what do the people in track and field at the ministry, what do they do? And there's no competition. So in Brand days, in Pat White days, so Reginald, there were either road races put on, they would
find other ways to keep
ground. There are so many different ways to keep competition going, and keep things relevant.
So what is our challenge today, you think?
Our challenge, we feel like if we don't have something grand, which we need to have something grand, we need to have good facilities to really get to the pinnacle. But if we don't have that, I think we should still go ahead and organize leagues and competitions. Look, you see, you know what's beautiful in all this, and I'll show you're involved in it too. A lot of what is North Coast, what is Wings, what is Filler, they always put on competitions, youth competitions, right? So the FA, they don't have to worry about that. But one of the things, they need to support those programs though, right? But the more
I've promised us a beat up on the FA, so I can't comment.
Yeah. Yeah, well, well, they know, but I will know. I not
no, you're not beating up on him. I know. That's what I'm saying. So that's why I let your comments go.
So, but the thing is, once you have competitions going, because competition is what's going to affect and promote skills and experience and so on,
and help you find your elite.
You can't have a girls team. You don't have a girls league, right? You don't have a girls league, but you don't have a girls basketball league neither, a girls football league or a girls basketball league. But when there's a tournament overseas,
you find a girls team,
and then you bring back in the old girls. So we call it inbreeding. It's the same girls.
And recycling, yes.
Yeah. Right. So you go out there to play, but you're not prepared, and you're going with the same old horses that the legs are tired and they don't know what they're going up against. Right, because there are no outside competition, whether it's coming in or going out, there's none. So you don't expect those girls or those teams to do
as well as we would hope.
Right, then if you have competition, so that's what you need.
Everybody associates Lucaso with sports. Lucaso, you have some hours when you don't sleep and you don't do sports. You have any of those hours? Is there any? When do you have hours? Sorry, do you have hours when you are not asleep? Because I know you sleep, and you don't do sports. So what do you do besides sports? That's what I'm trying to get at. Who is Lucaso when he's not affiliated with the one thing? I think everybody in Antigua knows you.
I like to visit friends, family. I like to go fishing around the rocks, swimming, stuff like that.
But all that is sports still, Lucaso. Mr. Brummant,
but
fishing.
No. That's leisure.
Okay,
that's leisure,
I accept. And you have your Catholic affiliation.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you have that religious side as well.
Yes.
Okay. Tell us about Wings Sports Club. I'm gonna come back to your broader sports vision, but now we probably need to head to Wings. You have been a member of Wings from the foundation?
Yes, myself, Clem Roberts. Clem was at the St. John's Catholic Primary School, and then Mrs. Commodore was just coming in to Christ the King as the new principal in 1988. So between 1988-89, we decided, because as I tell you, I don't know, people say we play in more sports now, right? But we used to play a lot of hard sports, right? And competition was vibrant. So at Christ the King, we used to have a lot of girls that were into sports because we didn't have something else that was taken away from it. Like we have now. We have technology that's taken away. And that has taken away. I mean, technology is good, but at the same time, it's taken away so much from us, right? Both of us could be sitting here and you have a cell phone in your hand and I have one in my hand, and we don't talk to each other. We talk to the cell phone. So you find that in those early times, growing up, we're dealing with wings now.
Mm-hmm.
From the school, the girls were playing sports without that instruction.
Okay.
Right? So, and...
What do you mean without instruction? There was no like coaches at the school?
Distraction.
Oh, distraction.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. My apologies.
Yeah.
Right.
So we wanted to... We're emulating Sports Stores International. That's a international body from Milwaukee that a good friend of mine by the name of Lee Fredericks had started just before that, a few years before that. And so we decided, look, let's have a sporting body too, right? And he was into organizing tournaments in his, in Milwaukee and elsewhere. Because one of the first things that he did when he organized his organization was to invite the Antigua national team, both boys and girls, over.
He was from Antigua?
No.
But
he used to be at Oakland University in Detroit, Michigan, and then he as I said, he organizes.
So how did you and he meet?
Because he brought his team down in '79. He brought his team to Antigua in '79.
Why?
Well,
that was a Mr. Brand connection?
That was myself a Mr. Brand connection.
Of course, yes. No problem.
I was
on.
the president of the Basketball Association.
Okay,
time,
all right.
And so he came down, and from that we made that connection, and everything went great from then, And he used to send down teams here, basketball and football teams, female football teams.
Okay.
But let me not miss out what we're saying from the wings from Christ the King. So we got the parents. The parents were also interested in sports, so we got those parents from the children at the school very interested, and we formed this association called the Concerned Parents Teachers Sports Association.
Right.
And then we wanted, and that was a body.
So that's
parents and teachers.
So that's the CPTSA, Concerned Parents Teachers Sports Association.
Right.
Okay.
So that was the parent body. So then we wanted a name for the athletes now. Athletes meaning whether it's basketball, football, stuff like that. So we made a competition with the girls that were doing sports. And they came up with one girl came up, Carla Marie James, she came up with the name Wings.
Wings, okay.
And we stuck with that. We liked that name, and we were the Wings from ever since. So that's how we began. And that's about 1989. Right?
So Wings role at Christ the King, because it was focused on?
It was a school club at
originally it was a
right.
Yes.
It was a school club.
Okay.
And then kids got to eventually graduate, and some of the children had brothers and sisters at other schools and so on, and the parents also wanted those children to be involved, and so we had to branch off and make it wider. That time we had the Most Reverend Donald Reese as our patron.
Right.
He was the patron of the club. We had a gentleman by the name of Willie Demps, Pastor Willie Demps. His wife was at the U.S. Navy base, and his daughter was playing, doing track and basketball. Right, so that's how we started, and then it had spread. We got Everton Cornelius to come in to do the track and field,
right?
And so we invited kids from the Antigua Grammar School, St. Joseph's Academy, and so on. And after that, it spread. As a matter of fact, at one point, Antigua Grammar School reigned champions for several years
of
track and field.
Okay.
Inter-school track and field.
When y'all were training them.
Yes, and St. Joseph's Academy too. And then Christ the King High School, which there's nothing in history here that will tell you. But Christ the King High School reigned champions for 13 consecutive years. I mean,
For integral, for the girls?
yes. I mean,
Okay.
you went to a PM school.
But of course.
You're PM
Can't
school,
you
right?
tell?
So, Mr. Green, we always talk and, friendly rivalry
Of
and so on.
course. Mhm.
But he should know that, I know he's proud of his PM school and you are,
Mm-hmm.
but he can never come up to 13 straight championships. 13 consecutive championships and 15 championships in all.
Overall? Wow.
And the least one time we came fourth. That's the only time we came fourth. The other time was second and third. One time we drew with PM school as far as we had the same amount of points with PM school. But that was that. And so the girls took off and they would represent wings when they had the National League, National Track and Field League and
Right.
so on. And
But
same
do
time
you
like in
but,
basketball
but
and
do you
football.
have would Christ the King have the records of the I know one of our challenges nationally is that
Yes.
we don't have sports records
Yes.
in a single spot. But for example, with all of these championships, girls championships
Yes.
for Christ the King, would Christ the King have the records of
you'd
those?
you'd have most of it. You'd have most of the
Okay,
records.
all
Like
right.
when it's in the trophies
Mhm.
that we won, they would be still there. I mean, some of them would have been broken and
I
stuff
hope
like
someone that is captured before it all goes.
that. Yeah. Some of them would be in files and so forth. You'd have to go back and research it because, computers and the thing.
Yeah, the file
So,
21, the blue files,
So,
rusty cabinets.
but that's a fact. 13 consecutive years. I don't see no sporting discipline.
I have to check to
has-
see how much PM have, You know how much PM have? We're not talking
PM
about PM, but I have to pull your legs.
Princess Margaret,
Yes.
maybe 7 or 8.
What? We so
Maybe
far
7
behind?
maybe 7
Mr.
or
Green,
8.
we have work to do, but we're not talking
Yeah.
about you today. So Wings would have started out as something for Christ the King.
Right, and
And then it would have
morphed
mushroomed
yeah.
into facilitating the wider community, young people.
Yeah.
How is it funded?
Oh, good question. When we started out, as I said, we had Bishop Reese, right, as a
Okay.
patron.
Mhm.
And in the early, we had started a walkathon, right? And the walkathon was a walkathon between the Christ the King High School, the St. Joseph's Academy, and St. John's Catholic, so the 3 schools, right? So we organized that.
That's back in the
Yeah.
days when you hand a parent a sheet
Right,
and they
yes,
know
yes,
they have to fill
yes,
it out and
yes.
bring it. Not like today
Right.
where you hand the parent the sheet and the sheet coming back
Yes.
empty if they take it. Okay,
No
carry on.
problem. And then Mrs. Commodore, because we went to her and we got permission to do, because we went to a store in town to get sponsorship for the girls, and they were selling uniforms, right? And I couldn't get no sponsorship from them. So I went to Mrs. Commodore and said, Mrs. Commodore, I'm looking for sponsorship. People are selling uniforms. I'm in charge of the sports. I'd like to do the PE shirts.
Okay.
So we did the PE shirts, right? And we printed and we sold. So the PE shirts were our doing.
Okay, so it was a
we-
revenue generating.
Right. So
okay.
between the walkathon
Nice.
and the PE shirts and other fundraising, we had a good amount of money.
But was it
And
enough?
Wait, no. So what we used to do is the good athletes, top athletes in the schools, we used to give them book scholarship because remember,
Nice.
Board of Education didn't come in yet.
At the time, that's true.
So children used to have to buy the books. So we used to get book scholarships. So like Cavinia Francis and them and so all those persons used to get book scholarships.
Once
Because
they were the
some
top
of the-
performers.
Yeah.
Right.
So so that's one of the ways that we spend the money into helping the children and so on. And we used to do a lot of touring. We are one of the clubs beside the Pit Bulls. We have gone to Milwaukee Youth Basketball Festival for a number of years, right? because at the time parents used to inject
There
funds.
the difference, yeah.
Right, and so on. So, and there are other sponsors from outside. A few sponsors would come in and support, but that's generally how we made the funds.
Do you still travel as much now with your teams? I mean, with your I know you have teams coming in, which we'll talk about. So do you travel out as much?
Yes, we do, but it's more difficult now, because where we want to go and where we like to go is the States, because of the facilities and the kind of connections and the kind of
potentials for the young people.
Yeah,
right.
And they would pick up scholarships and so on if they're good enough, right? But no government has yet come up with some kind of, I don't know what you would call it. But when we go to the embassy, there's always, why would you deny kids from going to play sports? Why wouldn't you?
Really? They deny?
So from getting visas to play.
Have you ever thought of meeting with the consulate, meeting with the ambassador, explaining what you do, write them outside of the visa period? Because that is so strange, though.
Yeah. We have spoken to the Honorable Barron Spencer at one time, and I think he made intervention on that, and that nothing came out.
And they still didn't get the visas?
Yeah, you would get some, but if you have a team, right, and your best players don't get, a few of the best players don't get the visas, right? You know that happens.
Is that because that even though you're applying for the team, that each person had to provide their individual background and that kind of information?
Yes.
So then I guess they were considered a flight risk?
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah. But, and then, we have been going to the Youth Basketball of America in playing in that tournament, right? We used to take it on the 14 boys and girls team. But again, with funding, if we didn't have enough money, right, it means usually, and you would experience this because you're right deep into sports with kids, you find that is the children who are not that potentially gifted that will have the money. That will have the money.
That will have the money. and the ones players who are really good.
Somehow, I know.
Which is why they don't get the visas either.
Right. I don't know if sometimes they feel they're entitled, that because they're good, you have to pay their way and stuff like that. But that would happen.
Sometimes the parents wouldn't have it either.
The parents wouldn't have it.
Right.
So you would get beaten with the team that you take.
Which is not necessarily a reflection of the quality of the club.
Right. So what we eventually did was to take them. They had another area, which was a camp. And where you could play games.
The development side.
Right. So we decided to do that. So we've been doing that for a number of years and so on. In providing that kind of experience for them and competition. Because they will be playing against and meeting people and playing with, not only against, but with people from all over the world, India, with mostly a lot of Spanish-speaking countries, Germany, all these kind of teams and players. So that has been good. So we still look to go to that. We're still invited every year to go to those to that camp.
Where do you find the time, Mr. Brummant, to put out that weekly magazine? That Wings magazine that comes without fail. I'm trying to remember. As I was prepping for today, I was trying to think back if you've missed weeks and how many weeks.
Yeah, sometimes we miss.
You miss one or two, but not a lot. You are religious with that, which I think is highly commendable. Yeah. Where do you find the time?
Well, after you've done several, it's just like your point. You use newspaper. Right, just again, because my father used to do newspaper work now. I've been involved with
you have the experience to know how to do this.
So the thing is, if you have the story, and as I tell my members, sometimes you may not see some of the football in it, or some of the track and field, or some of the volleyball. is their responsibility
to get you the information.
Get the information.
Yes.
If they don't get the information, I can't
You
be
carry
everywhere
it.
at one time. So the point is, once the information comes, you can just, it's like a template. You just put it in, and it doesn't take. The only time it may not come out is when you have an internet breakdown or computer breakdown or stuff like that. So,
Two hard questions as we close out. And ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to We're the Ones on Point FM. My guest today, first guest, is Mr. Lucaso Brummant. He is sports forever. He claims he's retired. I don't know about that, but we'll see. But speaking back to your retirement, one of the challenges that we face in Antigua with very good things like wings and so on is the transitioning, the passing of the baton. How has the succession planning and development been going with wings? And I asked that because I remember Thaddeus used to be there with you. He's not there anymore, and so on. Right. I know Miss Coates is there now with you.
Yes.
But so how is that transitioning so that...
Well, before quickly, it's, even though we're one body, right? We decided to have each sector
has a
their own autonomy.
Okay.
Right. So Barbara Coates would run the football. Mm-hmm. You used to have like Everton Cornelius, but now it's Randy,
yes, that is the track and field. Okay.
We have a young lady coaching the volleyball, so she runs that, and so on. So and I myself would run the basketball.
All right, question answered.
So the thing is, we have noted, again, let's come back to how old you are. Eagles, you remember Eagles team run by Teresa Emanuel?
Yes,
right?
Which is no longer around.
Right. Teresa Emanuel used to run a similar kind of, she used to have netball, football, and basketball. So at least 3 sports.
I remember netball and basketball.
Right.
I don't remember football for Eagles, but
yeah. You had another club well, she left, and then you don't hear about Eagles anymore.
Right.
Then you had in cricket, you had Charlo Walsh. Charlo was running the cricket academy, right? And then he passed away.
He died, yes.
He passed away, and therefore everybody keeps saying they're gonna revive it, but nothing's done, right? So we have decided that if each entity, each sector has its own autonomy, right, and it can run. Say if the basketball area died, right,
then everything doesn't die.
Everything doesn't die.
Okay, gotcha. Right?
So it's that's why I think that's the way we're going.
So each department basically then looks after its own funding and so on and so on.
Yeah,
do you come together as a group to do?
Like we have the walkathon coming up in December. It was supposed to be in November, but we put it back in for December. So we come together. There are programs and events that we put on, and that would go to the main. Yeah.
Okay, fine, fair enough.
But otherwise than that, each of the sectors would, like Barbara Coates would have the youth football festival, and whatever funds they raise, they go to
towards their program.
We would do the youth basketball festival. Randy would do a track and field meet and stuff like that.
You, Lucaso Brummant, at this phase of your life, you are called in by the Ministry of Sports and asked, given where we are today, to give your vision of what you want sports in Antigua and Barbuda to be, and the 2 most important things we need to do to fulfill that vision. What would that be?
Well, let me start with the last part first. To fulfill it, we keep from even since when Rupert Rugby Lake was around, we used to talk about a sports lottery, right? Because you need funding. You need a sports lottery to get the funds, or just like how we have an education levy.
But don't we have a lottery now? Don't we get monies from the lottery?
I don't know about that.
I'm
I don't know.
asking.
No, I don't. I don't
Okay,
know.
all right.
At one point, I think in the early years of the lottery, I think some funds used to go towards sports, but I don't think that is any longer
Okay.
because it's a Caribbean lottery.
Lottery, yes, that's
I
true.
may
That's
be
true.
wrong. So
Yeah, it is a Caribbean
I
lottery.
remember though that when that lottery came in, some funds were given to sports, went to sports.
So you
But
think we need to develop a funding?
We need to have a
Right.
general funding, whether it's a something like a levy, because even with
Oh, no one pay them more money, so make it something
yeah,
fun.
well, I mean,
You know,
come
as soon as
on,
Antigua
come on.
people hear about pay
can
money,
find
we
some-
don't want to.
Yeah,
I agree with you, you know.
yeah.
I agree, but the general consensus will be more taxes.
Yeah, come on.
How wicked.
Come on. If you want things, if you want
We want
things,
nice things without paying for them.
Yeah, and this is the problem here. And talking about that, this is another subject. I've seen a lot of shows going on, and it's free shows or whatever. So we're looking to teach people not to pay, right?
Now we're looking to.
Everything-
We have taught them not
Yeah.
to pay.
So anything you organize, people don't want to pay. You have a little football, they don't want to pay. Everybody expect to.
They don't want to pay
free.
dues to be part of the club.
Exactly. Thank you. So how you can run a club? How can you run even a church? You gotta pay your tithes or your offerings for the church for you to spread the word of God. You need that, right? We know that can't happen, right? So
what? So where would you want to see? Because remember, we're under the gun for time for you.
Yeah.
I have time, but you know,
Yeah.
Mr.
So
Brummant has to
that's-
go to coach. You know, his so-called retirement.
But
But he went to coach.
the second point is that we in Antigua, right, is who do what. I'm saying we're always looking for credit, and
Rather than just
Stop.
get the work done.
get the work done, right? You don't have to do something to look for credit. If it's not you doing it, it can't be done. You know, it should not be so. Let's do the work and forget about the credit, and then stuff will move on, and then you'll see an enhancement in sports. The facilities will come, right? Because now we are all working together. For that goal.
I'm going to steal you for one extra minute. Sports and education. For many of us, sports has been that vehicle that has gotten us the continued education. Do you think that we have done enough to marry those two to provide opportunities for our young people?
I don't think we have done enough. But I tell you this, sports, there's no other vehicle that has provided education more than sports, right? You go to any other field of endeavor, it's sports is the one that has challenged a lot of our children to get that extra education. Persons who, whether they have A levels, whether they're the top in the class, whether it's the national scholarship,
yes.
or so, that's the 1 and 2 and stuff like that. But sports, just the other day, you see how many girls and boys got scholarship in football.
Yes.
Right,
I
you
was
know
watching
that.
that program with Barbara.
Right. So in basketball, in track and field, right? So it means that we need, it's sad because just like tourism, if you say tourism is the engine of growth, is what pushes the economy, why don't you do something for have the roads fixed, have the national parks thing? Same thing with sports. If you say sports is taking you to another level, why don't you inject funding.
I think for all of us that it probably requires a conversation, because some hard decisions may have to be made in terms of, because the government will tell you that they hire people. So if you want the money to go to sports, something has got to give on the other side. It's about filing that. But I'm not giving any justification on either side, but I think that is where our challenge would remain. Mr. Brummant, it's now 7 minutes to 5. I promise I'd get you out of here by 4:45. So you have any parting words for your audience? They've been very attentive.
Well, I at the beginning, I always try to, because everything that we do, right, is to evangelize, because our motto is
evangelize through sports. Yes.
Right? And whatever you do, your program here is to evangelize too, right? Spread the word of God and so on. Because that's the first and foremost thing that we're here for, right? Not for nothing else. Well, what we do is secondary, right? So it's very important. I would just like to leave those parting words that, let us evangelize into whatever endeavor, whatever job we're in, whatever area we're in. Let us use that as something to spread God's word and to come together and, be one people.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to discussions with Mr. Lucaso Brummant. He really wants the spotlight or the limelight. He prefers to quietly do what needs to be done. But I think I want to take this opportunity on behalf of all of us, especially those who have benefited directly from the excellent work. 30 years of Wings, and then 40 plus years in sports in general, and 30 plus years in government service.
I don't even call them.
Those are not to be ignored. Those are significant years. Those are hundreds upon hundreds, thousands of young people's lives that you would have impacted in some way, shape, or form to become better citizens, to become good citizens, to become productive citizens. And for that, we have to say thank you. And your so-called retirement. Yes, he says he's retired. Yeah, but he's now on his way. I've just made him late to going on practice. What are we doing this afternoon? We have basketball practice. Where?
At YMCA.
Okay, police. We need help to get Mr. Brummant to the practice right now. We need to clear the way. But I want to thank you very much for agreeing to come and just give us some information. I mean, the information you shared with us about those other forefathers, the brands, the rugby leagues,
I tell people
Pat
that
White.
I
was writing the names as you call them. I think that's good information that we don't pay enough attention to. And this record that Princess Margaret needs to get sorted out. That Christ the King would have won 13 consecutive. He's good. Yeah. 13 consecutive records as championship, Christ the King. And 15 years overall. Those are commendable things, because those could not have been done without the leadership that persons like you would have provided. So I just want to wish you all the best in your retirement. I don't know about this retirement story. And we look forward to seeing more of you. Enjoy your Look, go on, go for it. This your retired story.
Anytime.
No.
Thanks a lot. Right?
Thank you very much for coming in, and all the best.
All the best. Thank you very much.
Police, if you see he's not going to be, speeding, but just help him out there so he gets up there in time. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Our first interview today. We had